Good morning, everybody. We will start our meeting. Ms. Weber, please call the roll.
Mr. Ballard.
Here.
Mrs. Bitter. Here. Mr. Comer.
Here.
Dr. Steger is absent today, and Mrs. Weiss.
Here.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, and justice for all.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. We will start, as we always do, with our mission and vision. Our mission is to create a culture of academic excellence through inclusive and innovative learning opportunities for the whole child. And our vision is to empower all learners to reach their full potential in a globally competitive. I need a motion for the approval of the agenda, which includes addendum superintendent agenda items number 6 and 7 in executive session ORC 121.22P8.
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Weber, please go ahead.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter. Aye. Mr. Ballard.
Aye.
Mr. Comer.
Aye. Motion passes. I need a motion for the approval of minutes.
So moved. Second.
Any updates from the board, comments, or questions? Mrs. Weber?
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Mr. Comer.
Aye.
And Mr. Ballard.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Mrs. Weber, if you could give us a very brief
Thank
overview.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Thank you to all of you who are here with us today for our meeting, as well as those of you who are in our virtual audience. For those of you who are attending the meeting virtually, you can find our board agenda on the Sycamore Board of Education page at www.sycamoreschools.org. The minutes that were just posted will be, the minutes were just approved will be posted on the Board of Education website as well. For those of you who wish to address the board in public participation, please send those requests to our moderator today, Mr. Christian Long, our Director of Technology at longc@sycamoreschools.org.
Thank you very much. We'll start with the superintendent agenda. First item is master facility plan.
Great, thank you so much. Good morning, Mr. Ballard, members of the board. Mr. Long, if you wouldn't mind just moving to that first slide there. There are two items I want to update you on. I know there was some conversation in the community in regards to our athletic field usage at the high school and around the district. So I wanted to address that with you today. And then additionally, talk a little bit about our tennis courts as well, the plan moving forward with those. So the slide that we have up here right now is just an overview of the current athletic facilities that we have here in the district. And the caveat around this is that they're not all at full capacity or use because of construction that continues to move forward. So what I wanted to do is I just wanted to outline really kind of briefly the fields that we have, the use that's being done on them, and then some of the projects that have been completed and future improvements as well. I do want to also preface this conversation by saying that I came and I developed this through a collaboration with Mr. Harden, our athletic director. Obviously, athletic field usage is outside of the scope of business operations. However, because we maintain and operate those fields, I worked with him to get a better understanding of the schedule that he set up for the use of the field. So a couple things here. So we have the high school new field, which is our multi-use field. The existing field at the high school, and then the junior high field. So just on the surface, I think we have to take a step back and recognize the fact that here in Sycamore, we have 3 synthetic turf fields, which is pretty impressive. I would say most districts would dream to have this many synthetic turf fields. So for us, it's really how do we leverage these fields for the biggest capacity that we can. You can see though, based on each of these fields, the seating capacity is different in each of those. So the new field obviously is our largest field by seating capacity wise at around 3,600. The next is our high school existing field, which we're calling the soccer lacrosse field because in the master plan, that's what we had. We had the multi-use field that was going to be striped for football and soccer. And then we converted that soccer field at the high school, the existing field, to soccer and lacrosse, and renovated those lockers, which I'll talk about here in a second. However, that existing field has a capacity of around 750. And then our junior high field, we've recently taken the bleachers out We're installing new bleachers in a press box, and there'll be seating for about 500 at the junior high, all right? The next column down there is what I want to do is just articulate how these fields have been striped for competition. There's a delineation between competition and then what you can practice on. So for competition, our multi-use stadium is football, marching band, and soccer. For the existing field, it's football, marching band, lacrosse, soccer, and it also has our track at the high school as well. So you have to consider the usage by our track and field teams that are out on that facility. And then our junior high is football, lacrosse, soccer, and track. And our lacrosse lines are actually painted on that synthetic turf field over at the junior high because of the junior high programs and the rental agreements we have with folks as well. If you go down and we look at what's available for practice down there, this is kind of the what's the usage of the fields on a daily basis, right? This is just what we captured for spring. I didn't go through every season for you, but currently for spring, out on that multi-use field, there's baseball, football, lacrosse as needed. They obviously have the soccer lacrosse field they can use, but sometimes my understanding is that the teams will do breakout groups and things like that, and they can use and leverage the other field. Marching band, softball, and then track, the discus and shot put are using the multi-use stadium, is from what I understand. And then you can see the existing fields, lacrosse, soccer, and track. And then over at the junior high right now, we have very limited capacity with parking at that field, obviously. So there's probably not a lot of use being used or getting use out there, but the junior high sports. And then we also have some weekend rentals that are occurring on that field. So that's kind of an overview of those fields. The recent athletic construction projects, I wanted to put this on there because I don't want to lose sight of the amount of effort that we put towards our athletic facilities over the course of the last 2 years. And this happened prior to me taking this role as they started to renovate the what we call the soccer, I keep calling the existing stadium, soccer lacrosse stadium at the high school. If you remember, we had to pull the plug on the junior high stadium for high school football because of the construction. And so a lot of the work that was done at the high school was converting the current soccer stadium up there to be able to host football games. So we had increased seating capacity, upgraded the lighting, and did some work in the Gregory Center as well. And so that was kind of the intermediate fix before we built the new stadium, the multi-use stadium at the high school. So we renovated the Gregory locker rooms for lacrosse and soccer. So the locker rooms have been upgraded since that is a new soccer lacrosse stadium. And in fact, that is the soccer and lacrosse are the only two sports really right now at the high school that have locker rooms adjacent to their fields. Obviously, we're working towards locker rooms at the new stadium. We added seating capacity at the existing stadium. We constructed the new stadium, constructed new concessions and restrooms at the new stadium. We added new seating and press box at the junior high stadium. Those are going up here in a short time frame. We're working obviously on the new natatorium. Renovated gymnasiums happening right now with brand new locker rooms, team space, and concessions and athletic offices at the high school. And we've upgraded the lighting at the existing field at the high school as well. Future improvements, these are things that we've either committed to or we're looking to commit to in the future. Locker rooms at the new stadium, baseball and softball upgrades. And then the last two bullet points are projects we are moving forward with, which is the junior high tennis court construction and the high school tennis upgrades as well. So just wanted to put this in front of you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr.
that you may have.
Point out one more thing that,
Yes.
future improvements, Mr. Seeger has already generously donated the turf replacement
Oh, yes.
at the high school existing field. And the future planning of that is, and it's not uncommon with this many facilities to rethink your striping of your facility. So the new high school existing field, I'll say, that will replace that field will not have like football lines on it. And we won't need goalposts on that facility because it's, it'll be more dedicated to the soccer, lacrosse, track use versus, it was really, you want to talk about a multi-use field, that one was really getting multi-use, and we're moving our multi-use and spreading it out.
Yeah.
I think what's difficult for people is that, they don't understand the logistics of, not all of our coaches are teachers. not every team can practice at 2:30 right after school. You know, some of our coaches work in industries that are not education. They can't get here at 2:30. So just because a team has a later practice doesn't mean it's because we want to open the facility. But I think the other thing that needs to be, you know, put out there in our community, I think holds us accountable to being good stewards of their tax dollars is, you know, if we have 50 to 70 people coming to watch a game, it is difficult to justify opening a facility that holds 3,000 plus people and running a video board, which it doesn't run itself. Then we have to work on getting game workers to do that, to run the facility. And that's, you know, opening a concession stand, opening, you know, restrooms, opening the press box, opening up the scoreboard. So it isn't just like, hey, there's 50 people that are going to come watch this game. We need to open up the multi-use stadium. We have a facility that's much easier to open. It can, you know, the press box can be managed by one person doing the scoreboard, and typically it's a student doing it. But I just mentioned that because I think we're going to make good decisions based on, you know, the need and not necessarily on the pressures that people think we should do. The other thing I would mention is it's easy to drive by and say, well, there's nobody out there using it. You know, it depends on what time you drive by. You know, I can tell you all fall when I was out and about at different events, after our multi-use stadium was used by our athletic teams, the marching band's out there till 9 o'clock at night on the field, you know, with the lights on. So I think it's easy if you drive by and you're only a fraction of time that you go by our high school, and if there's nobody on it, you immediately assume that we're not opening it. I think what I would encourage people to do is, you know, if you need information, contact the athletic department. That's a great way to find out who is using it and, hey, why is there no one using it? Can you explain to me why teams are going later? They're happy to answer those questions. There's not a scarce or a lack of transparency on our part. It's just, we don't get asked the question and then we don't find out it's a problem until it's already been talked about. So, you know, we just, again, encourage people to not believe rumors and misinformation. Contact us and we'll walk you through how are we utilizing our facilities, because we're very pleased with all the facilities we have. We're thankful that the community supported these initiatives, and, you know, we're spending the time to really take into account all the needs of all of our students and all of our athletes and the needs of our community to make sure that all are being served.
Mr. Lewis and Mr. Lovell, thank you for putting this together. Do we have an idea of the percentage of use of those fields in terms of, you know, a time frame? How often are they being utilized, like a percentage? And what is the process that the athletic department uses to allow teams to practice on this field, whether they are Sycamore teams, or is it also potentially used as a revenue generator for teams that are community teams that are not, you know, necessarily affiliated with Sycamore? It just seems that they're, you know, to your point, Mr. Lewis, about, you know, impressions in the community is that, you know, they're not being utilized, and why aren't they? Because people know that there are community teams that have asked to use it and they've been flatly told no.
Sure. So I will defer those questions to Mr. Harden. I can get you answer to those and have him, based on percent and how we determine who's going to use them internally and all those systems. I will tell you from the business operations standpoint, we do all of our facility usage for the district. So we work with community groups, nonprofits, whoever it may be that wants to leverage the fields, and we help them with that rental collaboration, specifically at the high school with our athletic department. One of the things we've recently moved to in the last year is something called MLS schedules, and it's a new scheduling platform to help us capture better usage and revenue. And we're working out the bugs with that. As you imagine, it's pretty complicated in regards to the different groups we have, levels and things like that. But my hope with leveraging this program is that each year I'll be able to come back to the board and talk about, here's the amount of groups that wanted to leverage facilities. These are how many we were able to say yes to. This is the revenue we've gotten off of it. So it's way more predictable. And then we can make better decisions down the line about how we're renting those facilities, and give those better percentages. But when it comes to the specific questions around percent of how much our teams are using, I don't have those, but I can get those for you.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know just briefly, and I don't want to get too in the weeds about this, but what is the process for someone to request the use of the field, whether it's a coach that is also a Sycamore teacher, or a coach who is not, or a community member who wants to do that? Is there, a form or process? How is it?
Yeah, so internal all goes through the athletic department. That doesn't get handled through us, so I can get that information. If a community member wants to use our fields, they would go online and submit facility usage requests through MLS schedules. And then we would get that, and we would work in collaboration to understand the availability of those fields. Our school teams always take priority over our facilities.
And I think the other thing to point out is what Mr. Lovell started with is we're not at full capacity of use yet with our PE classes having to really, they have the Gregory Center and outside because the gymnasiums are being, redone. And just the spread of our teams, it's been very difficult over the last 2 or 3 years to really allow too much community usage to spread out our own teams. And not only our teams at the high school, but junior high with the lack of facilities there. And we were just there Monday, and it's really torn up around. I'm still amazed when I look at how are we going to get that building done, and like just the trajectory of where the building sits and where the old building sits, but it's going to be an impressive thing, but it really is torn up all around except for the stadium and the 2 buildings. There's no other space to do anything down there right now. So I think just mentioning that, because I think it's easy to perceive that it's not being utilized, but I think there's a grander plan between Mr. DeJoy and Mr. Harden to make sure that our students that are currently in season are getting the use that they need before we would open it up for outside.
And the pain points don't end with just the junior high as well, because depending on what we do with baseball and softball upgrades, if they're going to be out of area to practice and things like that due to renovations, that will continue to put a strain on the other facilities because they can use the multi-use turf to practice their skills and things like that.
Can I just ask one final question about, and maybe this is more a question for Mrs. Weber, is any revenue generated from renting our fields goes where?
Typically, what we utilize those funds for is we put them in kind of like escrow account that we can utilize for the future construction project maintenance. So anything that we receive from the rental of our turf field financial fund, so that we can replace, for those funds to go toward replacement of the field on a regular basis. We do some of the same things with our theater, any of those facilities, so that renovations or maintenance, equipment needs to be addressed. They're utilized that way. So that's how we typically use our facility rent.
And we leverage some of those dollars from the natatorium for the project as well.
If we do have to, like if we, at times we do have to have custodial support, so if the fees that we charge for that are used to.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Just to clarify and reiterate, the stadiums are not only used for after-school extracurriculars, they're used for during the day educational purposes.
They sure.
So it's not just in the afternoon, it's actually during.
Correct, yeah. All of our facilities, I would say even specifically the junior high at this point, they definitely leverage that field for physical education, things like that, but at the high school as well. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. So you're not done with me yet.
Not any motion first, right?
Oh,
Dennis?
do they need a motion? Sure. Do we want to do tennis right now, or I was going to give an overview and then,
Yeah, please give your overview, sorry.
Okay.
Why not tennis?
happy to do whatever. I just wanted to let you know kind of the overview of what we plan to do with tennis, and to Mr. Ballard's point, there's a change order that on the you'll be discussing. Actually, is tennis? I'm getting confused. Yes. Change order. Thank you. See, I'm not in line as well, but it's okay. We'll get through this. It's a morning meeting. Just want to talk to you a little bit about the scope of tennis. I put together a visual. It's somewhat a little confusing. So I'll talk about the junior high tennis court construction and then talk about the high school. The high level overview is last year when you approved the capital improvement plans, we approved within the 5 years $1 million to renovate the high school tennis courts. At that point, that was a number that we put in there based on the rough estimates of the work that we knew we needed to do, which also included upgrades like lighting and things like that. When the junior high project, the base bid of the construction included 4 tennis courts. Those tennis courts, if you look at the first picture here, were north of the existing field, but south of the maintenance building. So think about right where the bus compound was located. In discussions with our tennis program, and we've had many conversations with our tennis coaches and important stakeholders with our tennis program to understand what their desire is out of our tennis facilities. We quickly realized and learned that 4 tennis courts is great for practice, but it's not overly functional because you can't play matches. And so the question then came, how can we get a 5th court somewhere over there on that property? The conversation then led with our civil engineers to understand what it would look like to add a 5th court. Adding a 5th court on that side of the property required us to add a court north of the maintenance building. So if you can visualize that space over there, you drive in, there'd be a tennis court, then the maintenance building, and then the 4 courts. A lot of reasons why that wouldn't function well. So then the conversation said, well, what if we were to put the tennis courts back over to where they currently existed on the junior high property? Just move the 4, not add the 5th, because that wasn't in part of the scope. And so we worked with our civil engineers to lay that out, but with the possibility of adding a 5th court in the future, right? We were able to fundraise for that 5th court. So you can see there that showed how those 5 courts would be placed what would be on the east side of the property. That design is most favorable by our tennis teams, coaches, and stakeholders, and I believe our junior high as well, for a lot of reasons. The only downfall of this design, which we can't work against, or it's just we can't do anything about, is having that 1 court face east-west. You would like your courts all to face north-south. It is what it is, right? Just because of how we could fit that in there. Now, so then they came up to how do we fund this? And so we went down a lot of different paths to look at strategic partnerships and things like that. But in conversations with our tennis stakeholders and our coaches and everybody, what we realized is that the money that we had allocated within our capital fund might actually be able to make this because of the credit that we get back from moving it to that side of the property. So what we're proposing is to leverage our capital funds to move forward to design and develop and build the 5 courts at the junior high property, and then completely renovate the courts at the high school without including lights to have 7 courts up at the high school. So altogether, it would equal what we had prior to construction, but we're gaining a court based on what the original bid documents were for the junior high. So when it's all said and done, we'll have 11 new courts within the district for play.
Mr. Lovell, do they have lights at the high school?
They do not, no. And that was one of those desires to add lights for increased play, but in talking to the coaches and talking to Mr. Harden and the stakeholders, there are facilities in our region and in our area within the cities that have that capacity. So we didn't feel like we needed to spend the money to replicate that. And we had enough courts if we add the 5 at the junior high for practice and things like that for all of our teams to leverage. The high school courts, as you know, you might know, we did spend about $100,000 this past year to get them back to a standard of play because of the cracking. We have some drainage issues and things like that. So we actually have to rebuild these courts at this point just because they've deteriorated so much. Ohio weather does not lend itself to tennis courts very well because of the water freezing, the cracking, the long-term maintenance and things like that. So it's time for us to rebuild our high school courts anyways, which is why we leverage that money in the capital plan. Any questions about tennis?
Mr. Little, thank you for the update. Just to make sure I understand, we originally put the money in the capital plan for the tennis courts at the high school.
Correct.
And now what we're saying is that capital money can work to cover both.
Correct. Yep.
And there's no increase in that dollars needed. It's just that it's reapportioned some of the high school to the junior high.
Correct. Yes, we,
One addition.
Yep.
In that we did have funding in the bond issue for the initial tennis court plan.
correct.
And those funds will still be utilized for the bond issue for the junior high.
This will pay for the addition of the fifth
But there's
floor.
no
in the
additional
location.
funds.
There is no additional funds being asked.
And we're not pulling any additional funds out of the bond issue. It's just the same that we planned.
It will actually be less than what we originally asked you for, was $1 million. It's going to be about, was it around, I have the numbers I can get you, but the overall spend is going to be less because we put the lights and some other improvements out. Any other questions, tennis questions?
Okay, I need a motion for the change order Sycamore High School junior high construction.
Second.
Twice.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye.
Mr. Comer.
Aye.
Mr. Ballard.
Motion passes. I need a motion for the change order of transportation facility project.
So moved. Second.
Any questions from the board? Mrs. Weber.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye.
Mr. Ballard.
Aye.
Motion passes. I need a motion for the change order of schools in Sycamore Junior High, High School, and PH Green Intermediate.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Mrs. Weber.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Mr. Ballard.
Aye.
Mr. Comer.
Motion passes. I need a motion for the change order Sycamore High School renovation project GMP #2.
So moved.
Second.
Questions from the board? Mrs. Weber.
Mr. Comer.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye.
Mr. Ballard.
Aye.
And Mrs. Weiss.
Motion passes. I need a motion for the approval of instructional programming. Advanced quantitative reasoning.
So moved.
Second.
Yes, we're very excited to bring this opportunity in front of the board. So as always, we're looking at providing opportunities for all of our students and expanding our program, but programming would also be fiscally responsible. So first of all, I want to give a shout out to Callie Hoffman, the math department chair at the high school, because she's the one who really pursued this effort through the So the Ohio Department of Education, in collaboration with the Ohio Department of Higher Education over the past few years, have been looking at alternatives to an Algebra 2 course. Algebra 2 is a current graduation requirement for all students. But what they were looking at is what are some other courses that have the same level of rigor, so still a very challenging class, but might prepare students better that are looking to go to careers that are non-STEM or STEAM courses, fine arts, behavior sciences, those types of things. So this course was developed in partnership between those two entities, and the curriculum, the materials, everything has been centrally created. And so what this course does, as I said, it meets that Algebra 2 requirement for high school graduation, but gives kids an opportunity to take a course that might better prepare them for what their next step is after high school. So this would be for students that are pursuing a major that would not require calculus. This would be for students that are looking at perhaps an associate's degree, or even going right into the military or the workforce. And so we are very excited that we've got opportunities for students that still have the same level of rigor and challenge, and deep learning in mathematics, but in a course that will better prepare them for what their future careers are. And so we're just very excited about this opportunity. Ms. Tompkins, do you want to add anything?
Yes, so again, thank you to Callie Hoffman for all of the work that she's put into this course, pursuing it, moving through professional learning. She's been a great leader with this course. So as Mrs. Wagner said, very excited. It is the same rigor of an Algebra 2 course. One of the main differences is this course is conceptually embedded. So it places students in a real world situation and then using the Algebra 2 thinking that will allow students to practice their and learn and hone their math skills. So this is, of course, concept-based, and then uses skills in order to help students really work their way through these concepts. So it provides a different way for students to think about mathematics. So again, providing some opportunities for our students they wouldn't have without this.
And there's no additional staffing required for this course. We've got the staffing in place at the high school to cover that. And the materials are covered also by the Ohio Department of Education, with the exception of some consumables, $100 to $200 per year, which is something we could totally absorb into our budget.
Do you have a sense of how many students you think would take advantage of this opportunity?
I don't off the top of my head. I need to reach out to the high school. I know in talking with Mrs. Hoffman, they're thinking of one class and potentially two. But as students are moving through that registration process or have moved through it, we can get their things.
And Mrs. Hoffman has met with the counselors too, and she's also put together a small presentation for the counselors to share with students. And she's also gone to the junior high to talk to students about this as well. So being very intentional about making sure that students and their families understand exactly what this course is trying to do.
That's great. Follow-up.
Will this class be available in the 23-24 school year as an offering, or will it be the following school year?
Next year. If it's approved, yes.
Yeah, I think it's great to offer our students a pathway to achieve graduation. Is this new from ODE and ODHE, or is this something that's been around for a while?
Just within the first 2 years.
Okay.
So it's they've been in process for about 2 or 3, but in terms of districts actually offering it, it's been since 21.
Any additional questions? Mrs. Weber, can you follow?
Weiss?
Aye.
Mr. Comer?
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter?
Aye.
And Mr. Allen?
Motion passes. Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, really quickly, Mr. Long, before you leave this slide, like, this is one of Ms. Bonbright and I's favorite things to do is when we go out and do Awesome Aviator, but this particular day was probably one of the most unique and special days that we've ever spent because of the students that were in the room. So Mrs. Weigel was in there, and I think they were in like a indoor recess type situation, because I think I'm in that one. I may be wearing a coat. It was pretty cold out, but one of the young ladies in the class, as I introduced myself and told them why I was there, she was like, "Oh, are you the superintendent?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Why do you make so many mistakes?" And I thought, well, I'll try to do better. It was a first grade student, so at least I know my impact is, good or bad, is reaching down to the first grade. So Mrs. Weigel, I think, was mortified, but it's like, wow, who's been talking about me in this room? Go home and tell your parents you met the superintendent today. So it was a special moment, and I think she may be standing next to me in the picture, but I'm not sure. It was hilarious. So didn't say the darndest thing. So, the next, I will tell you, the picture here, Lila Zwatsky, very special recognition. She is a national gold medal winner of the Scholastic Arts Awards. Her artwork is called Minor Restriction. It'll be displayed in New York City, and there's a celebration June 7th through the 9th. Pretty impressive, and kudos to Lila and her family. Hopefully they get to go to the celebration. So our junior high choir went to Carnegie Hall over spring break. Thank you to Mrs. Stein, Mr. Callahan, and unfortunately, Mr. Callahan became ill during break and did not go. So Mr. Waffle, he was saying thank you to him for jumping in there, and as a avid traveler to New York because of his theater travels, he jumped in and helped out Mrs. Stein. But there were other junior high staff members that went and supported that trip, and the students had a great time. The Winter Guard went to the Tri-State Marching Arts Championships this past weekend and performed well there. And then our Winter Drum Line finished second in the Performance Association Championships at Nutter Center, and they are going to the World Championships in 2 weeks. So, yeah. Lots of people traveling and doing great things.
Always impressive to hear the great things that our students. are doing. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I need a motion for the approval of policy revision in BDDA notification coordinates.
So move.
Second.
Any additional comments, questions from the board? Mrs. White.
I do want to just mention this, the policy that's been recognized, recommended by OSBA, to make sure that we are including focus in the spirit of our notification meetings policy. Thank you for considering this on the second page, because we have reviewed all of our policies recently. And on another note, I just want to let you know that our new policy manual is now online. So progress.
Hey.
Okay, this is Bitter.
Just one,
Oh, you have one question.
sorry, this is an exceptional process to do it on the second reading for valid reasons. I just want to make sure it's clear that our policy is typically
Correct.
three readings, but we have the ability to waive the need for the third reading for an exceptional need, which this one satisfies.
Okay, this is Bitter. Aye. Mrs. Weiss. Aye. Mr. Comer.
Aye.
And Mr. Balance.
Aye, motion passes. I need a motion for the approval of personnel consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
Mrs. Weber.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Mr. Balance.
Aye,
Mr. Comer.
Aye.
motion passes. Moving on to other Board of Education business, I need a motion for the approval of the change to the meeting location for our April 19th meeting, which will be held at Sims Elementary School, so that we can have the players presentation.
Oh, so moved. I cannot wait.
I just wanted to point out, I recommended that we do this just because we have had questions about our board meeting schedule and the board's approval for that. So I think this is just a good practice we will put in there. Sure, it's. Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Mrs. Twitter. Mr. Ballard.
Yeah.
Aye.
Motion passes. I need a motion to go into executive session for ORC 121.22G1 employment with employee, ORC 121.22G4 negotiations, ORC 121.22G3 to confer with an attorney for the board concerning disputes involving board that are subject to pending or imminent court action.
So moved.
Just one question. Did you also include?
I'm sorry, you're correct. Take that back.
Yes, I do think that.
ORC 121.22A.
So moved.
Second. Mrs. White.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter. Aye. Mr. Ballard.
Aye.
Mr. Comfort.
Aye.
Motion passes. This ends the public section. We are not anticipating any votes, so. Thank you, everybody.